Greetings, programs. It's Dan, Board Game Man, and I'm back for another Top 5 Express Board Games edition. Each episode, I'll give you a topic for the list and give you my picks for the top 5 of those games. This week, man, I've got a treat for you. I'm so excited. This week, we're doing filler games. And, well, this may be very hard, as always, because I love me some filler games. So I'm going to do another one of these two-parters. One's going to be dice-based filler games, and one's going to be non-dice-based fillers. So what is a filler? Well, it's a quick game usually played to fill in time, whether it's before people get to game night, or in between games, or at the end of the night when you just want to get one more quick game in before you go home or waiting for the other games to end. So I'm going to give you now the top 5 dice-based fillers. And like I said, next week we'll get you the top non-dice-based fillers. Number 5, Roll For It. Now, this is a game, very quick, and then the good thing is there's an app for this as well if you want to check it out. You have cards in the middle of the table, and they're going to have sets of dice on the cards from 2 dice to 6 dice on them, and there's going to be points according to how many are on there. You're going to roll the dice, and then you're going to allocate your dice to a card out there. You're going to allocate them and take back the ones you don't want to allocate to those cards. So if there's a card with, let's just say 4 on there, and you put a couple of the different numbers that match them, then you could just pass and wait till it comes around to you. So turns are going to go around the table, and once you fill all the numbers on a card, as long as it's before someone else, it's going to be worth anywhere from 2 to 15 points. And then all the dice on those cards will go back to the owner, and you'll get the card and another one will come out. Keeps going around the table until somebody gets 40 points and then the winner. It's quick and easy. Like I said, there's a real cheap, I think it's 99 cents app out there. That's a lot of fun and works real good too. But that's a great game. It's called Roll For It, and that's a great dice-based filler. Number 4 is Can't Stop. This is the Sid Saxton classic. This is from 1980. You're going to have the board. Now, depending on which version you'll have, you either have like a board that looks like a stop sign or kind of a triangle, depending on which version. Like I said, you'll have just basically 2 or 3 numbers that go from 2, and it'll go all the way up to the middle with different spots up on the 7, and then come all the way back down to only having to get 2 again at the 12. So depending on which numbers you're going to roll, you'll have to get more of those. So anyway, you're going to roll 4 dice, and then you're going to have the different sets of the dice. So depending on what you roll, you'll have basically 3 different sets, or if you roll all the same number, you'll have different amounts. So you'll have either kind of one number, 2 of one number, or a bunch of different of those numbers. Then you go up those numbers 1 or 2 times depending on what you rolled. But you can only be working on 3 numbers at one time. You'll have these little pegs that'll go up. So if you're working on the 2, the 7, and the 8, let's say, and all you roll are things that can only be marked by the other numbers, and you can't get a 2, a 7, or 8, then you bust. So you got to push your luck until you either quit and then lock in your progress on that board, or you bust and lose all your progress. The first person to lock out 3 numbers wins. And it sounds pretty easy, but it's hard to stop. And that's why they call it Can't Stop, because you just want to keep going and going, because it seems pretty easy. And once somebody locks out a number, then nobody else can get progress on that number, and you take everything off. So that makes it a little bit harder as the game gets going as well. That's number 4, Can't Stop. Number 3, Pickamino, or Pickamino, or we're going to go with Pickamino. That's always the way I've said it. It's a very cute theme. Your chicken's trying to get worms. You're going to roll 8 dice, and they're numbered from 1 to 5 with a worm on the 6. And then each time you're going to lock in one of the numbers you roll. So let's just say of the 8 dice, I roll 3 4s, and I want to lock into 4s. I set the 4s aside and then roll the rest of them, and I can't lock into 4s anymore. Now, you're going to keep rolling until you're happy with everything you have locked, or you bust. Now, the catch is you have to at least bank 1 set of worms, of at least 1 worm. Like I said, they're on the 6s, but they're only worth 5 points. Now, what you have locked is your numbers. So let's just say you've got, the 4 5s and the worms locked in, and then you're just, okay, well, I have 2 dice left, and you go to roll them, and you roll 2 4s. Well, then you bust. You don't get to bank whatever you have rolled. You kind of lose everything. So, like I said, that's the catch, and you have to have your worm. Let's just say you're happy with what you rolled, and there's dominoes out there from 21 to 36. Now, you can claim your number or a number below what you rolled, depending on if, there's somebody's already claimed that one, or you can claim the one in front of somebody. If it's the top one. If I roll a 25 and somebody has a face-up 25, I can steal that domino in front of them. Now, on these numbers, there's going to be a number of worms starting from 1 to, I believe, 3 or 4, all the way up to that 36. Obviously, the lower numbers have less worms on them. Now, you keep going, and if you do bust, then you've got to put your top tile back into the middle, and you also flip over one of the highest number that's out there. So there's a little bit of a timer on the game there. So it makes it not too long and not too short, but it's a ton of fun. Really good. Like I said, we'll call that the beer and pretzels games because everybody's kind of active and watching it, but very, very quick playing and just a ton of fun. That's Pickamino. At number 3. Number 2 is, we call it Ganz schön clever, or Quicks. Now, these are kind of the latest fad called roll and write. Everybody can remember Yahtzee, and that's like kind of the original roll and write, where you're kind of writing things on a board, on a pad, and you're kind of rolling the dice. Now, I mentioned 2 here as a cheat, but really it's because Ganz schön clever isn't available yet in the States unless you've imported it, but there's an app for it that I highly recommend checking out because it's easy to learn. But there's also coming over here from Stronghold Games, will be importing it, should be out before the end of the year. But until then, you can grab my other favorite filler roll and write, which is Quicks, and you can also find this at Target as well. Now you're going to roll a set of dice, and each time you're trying to cross out sets of the 2 of the dice of specific colors. Now, however, once you skip a number in the row, depending on which row it's in, you cannot go back. So, for instance, there'll be a row that's marked from 2 to 12 in each of the obviously increments. So if you cross off, let's say you cross off a 3 on one turn, and then later you cross off the 6 of that same color, you can't go later and cross off the 4 because you're going up to 12. So you're kind of going as best you can, but again, you can't just keep waiting because somebody will have already locked something out and made it so that nobody else can get there or end in the game. So again, good thing in a game also makes it a great filler is the fact that you're playing on other people's turns. So you can only use, you can use certain dice on their turns as well as your turns to then cross out things. So again, makes it a good beer and pretzels game because you're doing things on other people's turns and it's going really, really quick. Again, great game. That's Ganz schön clever or Quicks. Number 1, the best dice-based filler game is Las Vegas. Again, we're talking about a game that you can find at Target. You're going to roll your dice, and there's going to be 6 casinos in the middle. They're going to be numbered from 1 to 6 on a table. And each round, you're going to roll your dice, and you'll have to pick one of the numbers you rolled, and you're going to assign all of the dice of that number to the casino with the corresponding number. So all the 3s will go on the 3 casino, all the 4s will go in there. But when you pick the 1, you have to take all the ones of your number. So if I rolled all 6s, then I've got obviously have to put all the 6s onto the 6th casino. Now, each one of those casinos will have money cards assigned to them at random at the beginning of each round. Now, the casino will have anywhere from 1 to 3 cards on them, and around, I think 50 is the lowest that will kind of make it you have to go with $50,000, and then you move on, kind of the randomness, and then 90,000 or more on them in those cards. Another catch is that any ties in these casinos and the total numbers of dice will cancel each other out. So if Sam and Steven both have 3 6s on the 6th casino, and I just have 1 by myself and the round ends because everyone's placed their dice, I actually get the highest number of money and they get bupkis. So there's a lot of strategy involved, and you can kind of come in there and try and snipe a number if you see 2 people are going. And what's really kind of cool is that when you get down to 1 die, or sometimes even 2 dice if you roll doubles, you have no choice. You just have to throw it wherever it is, and that can lead to some really cool tension and really cool people getting locked out, or just the stand-up die moments where you kind of get these things. You play over, I believe, 4 rounds, and then you add up all the money and see who wins. Anyway, great filler, my favorite filler, and of course a great family game, a great beer and pretzel game. I can't tell you how many times my son, who's 11, has beaten me over the last few years because it's that easy to play. Like I said, I think it's $15 at Target. You'll notice on the shelf because it looks like a big square die, and it'll just say Las Vegas big. Again, it's one of my favorite games ever, and it is the best filler. So our top 5 dice-based fillers. We've got number 5, Roll for It. Number 4, Can't Stop. Number 3, Pickamino. Number 2, Ganz schön clever or Quicks. And number 1, Las Vegas. What's great about these is I think just about everyone except Pickamino you can probably find in either Walmart or Target really easy in a mass market store. So go check those out. And I recommend having just about every one of these in your collection because they're just easy to play and great fillers. Anyway, thanks for joining me this week on Top 5 Express Board Game Edition. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the episode on majorspoilers.com or go to the website for tons of other great podcasts and content by Steven and the rest of the Major Spoilers crew. Of course, I'd love to hear your top 5 dice-based fillers because, as always, there's a ton that I left off this list. So comment on the show or tweet them to me, and next time, like I said, I will have the top 5 non-dice-based fillers. I am Dan, the Board Game Man, and you can find me at Geek Jock Blog or on the Geek All Stars podcast or as a contributor to TMSPM, where I do a board game segment with Scott and Brian. So until next time, grab a great dice-based filler and have some fun with your family and friends.
This podcast is copyright 2018 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.